are now, more and more people are recycling than anything I've ever seen. I mean, to me, to look at the changes that have come as a regard to that, it's a huge thing.
Sure.
People are doing things that do make a difference. Even people who are not conscious about what they're doing. They put the trash cans out and they say, this one's for recycle, we're going to pick it up, this is what you put in here. And people are actually doing it.
Yes.
I mean,
it's become a part of our culture.
Exactly.
See? Culture is like a live thing too. It grows. It evolves. And now in our culture, we have done some nice evolving in the sense that we let people be how they are a lot more than we used to, and we do things like recycle. We have adopted these things as just the way just like everyday things that we do. Like you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, right? Well, you take your cans and put them in one box, and your plastic in the other box, and we've learned to do that. 50, 60 years ago, that was a hard sell. It was really hard to get anybody to do that. The more population you have, the more recycling gets to be really, really important. As it gets important, we have been growing. Yeah, we change. Everything evolves. Cultures evolve too.
What about population? Is this a problem, and can we change that too?
Is it a problem? Which way? There's lots of places where the problem is that it's decreasing rather than increasing. Italy, for example, population's going down. Japan has a problem with its population out in the rural areas. Schools are closing because there's not enough kids there to go to school. There's lots of places in Germany where the populations are shrinking. Some of it's demographics, people are moving to cities and things, but some of it's just population is decreasing. So there are places where it decreases. There's other places where it grows. And again, we are, the way the feedback works is we have free will. We make decisions and then we deal with the results. Dealing with the results is our feedback. So if we overpopulate and suddenly there's too many people, so some of them start to starve and tensions run high, and some of them want to kill each other with wars and other things because of too many people trying to compete for too few things, too few resources like water, clean air, and that sort of thing, then we create that. Then we have to deal with it. And the way we deal with it is we realize that this is not good. We need to do better. So then we start thinking about doing better. One sad fact is that we learn much more quickly from pain than we do from anything else, than we do from joy. So as long as everything's going fine in our life, we don't care to change anything. We just kind of sit back and enjoy it. Once the pain starts, we start asking, what's causing the pain? How can I fix that? So that's the feedback system. Unfortunately, we just don't grow up without somebody giving us a swift kick. It takes the pain before we act. It's the same in a bigger picture where you're talking now about our whole culture or our whole planet. So if we overpopulate to the point that it causes a lot of pain, then we'll think about doing something differently and fixing that problem. But until it causes pain, what problem? We don't have a problem. There's always those people that see the problem coming decades, if not, centuries ahead of time. Nobody does much. Everybody ignores it because it's not a problem yet. We are reactive. We're not proactive in much. We tend to react.
So is there something in the server that says, even though we have to wait till we get into the pain, there's a way to solve the problem? Is it built into the system?
Usually there is a way to solve the problem. Usually most of these problems are self-balancing. You look at populations of bugs or something and you can see they get too many of them, well, they start to die off. Get too many deer, they start to starve to death. It causes, it has its own solution is inherent in the problem. If you get to the point where there's too much pain, then the pain itself is what causes the thing to go the other way. So yes, if we overpopulate, we eventually will create a situation that will kill off the population. We will have diseases. We will have other things that will run rampant because everybody will be so close together that diseases will mutate and travel faster than ever before. So there tends to always be a solution, but often the solutions are not pleasant. Wouldn't it be nicer if we just decided to grow up and become love without having to be given a kick, without having to have the pain. And that's what happens to you once you live like that. When you live in that world where, love and compassion is just a way of life, then you start to grow and you get it and you say, I see what's going on here. I'm going to get rid of my fear. And suddenly you're growing without the pain. And then life is so much better because you don't have to get kicked in order to grow. And everything is good. So that would be my hope, that spreads, that we don't have to always have pain to grow up. That once we realize the game that we're playing, why wait until we get creamed before we do anything? It's like, get on the stick. This is why you're here. Get going on it. You won't have to wait until it hits you between the eyes. And that's what we're hoping for. And I think that, you say, that's building. People are getting more interested. What should I be doing? What's the point of my life? What is all this about? And those questions are now being asked more openly by more people than they were even 5-10 years ago. I think that's good.
The group of people that we work with in Austin are actually building a community organic garden. I've bought some big land so that we will have the opportunity to grow food to help people whenever they're in need. Because it's not just for those of us who are there and working on it and creating it, but it's looking to the needs of the future of what we're going to need to be able to do to feed people.
Yeah, and when you work on things like that, it's really good, isn't it? You get a lot of energy out of it.
Of course.
Yeah, it's a very positive kind of thing. Yeah. That's what I mean. You can create that joy by growing up before there's the pain. Right. That's where we'd like to go to.
Wow. Well, Tom, it seems to us that you have you have the history of a scientist. However, you are a mystic. And we're really grateful.
And the heart of a saint.
We're really grateful for you and the work that you're putting out into the world, that you're sharing with our viewers right now, so that people can start to have a better and deeper understanding of what we need to do personally in order to move forward and make this a more loving, kind, nurturing universe.
Yes, well, I think that mysticism depends on the viewpoint, that you have, where you're coming from. From another viewpoint, that mysticism is just science. If you understand how it all works, then you're a scientist. If you don't understand how it works, but you get it anyway, see, you're right brain. Let's say you're a right brain person. You understand it holistically. You get it. Oh yes, we're all connected. Yes, that all makes perfect sense to me. Then you're a mystic because you don't get it from a logical process view. But if you can get to the same place from a logical process view, then mysticism and science all one thing. Then that mysticism just becomes facts of life. I started this process with Bob Monroe, learning out of body and that sort of thing. And being a scientist, I wanted to understand why. What are the limits? How does this work? And studying it from that angle, I eventually got to the point that I thought I saw how it all worked. So I started to write these books, The Big Toe. And after I'd finished writing the books, I looked at it and I said, the same theory, it was all basically metaphysics then, the same theory explains quantum mechanics, relativity, all these other things. And then I realized that actually the system that the process, the logic system, did as well in the world of physics as it did in the realm of metaphysics. So then it all kind of pulled together, and there was science too. So if you really have a big toe, then you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to do better physics, and you have to be able to do better metaphysics. You have to be able to be a better mystic, and you have to be able to be a better scientist. It all has to work together. And you can't just do this, well, you can, but there's very little value in doing this just intellectually. See, it's not an intellectual exercise. I'm talking about it, I'm giving you logical process, I'm explaining things, and it seems all very intellectual. But it's not an intellectual exercise at all. It's about what's in here. It's about at the being level. If you don't grow up here, all the intellectual understanding in the world isn't going to get you anywhere. The idea is to be whole brain, not right brain or left brain. You need to have logical process because that helps you be skeptical and helps keep you on a path that's productive. And you need to have that right brain holistic view of the world because that's really the way the world works. That's how it all ties together. That's what makes it valuable and makes sense of it. This is the process detail, and this is kind of overview. So you need to have whole brain. You need to be a mystic and a scientist both at the same time, and they have to not be in conflict with each other. They need to be the same thing. You have scientists who are religious, and they carry both of those things kind of in a separate bag. You know, they carry this in one bag, this in the other. They go do science by day, and then they pray by night, you know. But they don't mix the two. It's two separate intellectual things, and that's not complete. They all have to come together. You need to be able to have your science derive your theology, and your theology inform your science as to value and content, you know, and what's important. So it all has to be in one bag, and you have to then grow in all those ways in order to be one whole individual that's kind of represents it all. So that's just the way it has to work. You know, you know that. You're right brain, so you know the holistic view, but you also need that logical process view that makes sense of it. Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering in that big world with little to grab hold of except the metaphors that you can come up with. It's better if you have some sort of a logical process view of it too, because then you can say, oh yeah, well these are just metaphors, and you know, I could have different tools, and I don't have to only see black things on a white background. I can see white things on a black background, because you know, sometimes that's better. If you're trying to heal someone and they've had let's say they've had a lump removed, they've had prostate cancer or maybe breast cancer, and they've taken out something, and the problem is, are there cells, cancer cells still there? Because if there are, then they're going to grow and come back. So now you're looking for just a few scattered cells. You'll see those scattered cells much better if you let the healthy be black and those cancer cells be white. Matter of fact, they're white. They have beams of light coming off of them. They're all, you know, you can see it, and there in that black expanse, these little points of light with the light coming out of them, they're just as easy to see as anything. You see, that's more productive than saying I want the healthy to be white, and I got tiny little black specks in there that are just little cells, and you can't see them very well because they're so small. You know, so you can just change the output format. That's all. You're asking for data, you can tell it any format you want, and it'll work just as well. Yeah, it just doesn't make any difference. All those things are just tools. Make up your own tools. Make up the tools that work for you. You want to, you find somebody has a disease where the cells aren't programmed right, some kind of chromosome problem or whatever, some kind of hereditary biological thing. You can go in and fix one cell. Okay, just fix one cell, because you got to rearrange how that cell works, and you fix that cell. And if you had to fix all, you know, 50 billion cells that were affected, it'd be real tedious fixing one cell at a time. So you can just fix one and say, okay, now I want all the rest of them to be just like this one I just fixed. It's done. Okay, so what are you doing? You're just using a tool. You see, that's just a way of focusing your mind on getting the job done. It's nothing more than that. So you can just create your own tools and create your own metaphors and whatever works for you, and then suddenly you're free. You don't have to be in this system or that system. You kind of create your own system. And then that freedom will let you move a lot farther, a lot faster, because you no longer have a belief that you have to tie your data that you get doesn't have to come back and satisfy these beliefs or these tools. It can satisfy whatever makes sense to you. You know, so when you're doing healing, these are just examples, but it's true with everything. We trap ourselves with these beliefs and metaphors sometimes, and then that becomes our world. You know, frequency, higher vibration, and all these are just metaphors. They're metaphors for a way of explaining something. There's nothing wrong with metaphors. We need them, or we couldn't talk. You know, we couldn't say anything if we didn't have. We couldn't organize the data coherently if we didn't use metaphors. But we have to just realize, you know, they're just metaphors. They're just tools. Because otherwise, what happens is this group that uses these metaphors and these tools, of course, those are right and true. And this group that uses those metaphors and those, of course, those are right and true. Now they have to fight with each other because one of them's Christian and the other one's Muslim, or whatever. They have different tools and things, you know. Let the tools go. You know, as long as we realize that the tools are useful and we use them, but we don't make them sacred, we don't make them into beliefs, then tools and metaphors are wonderful. So that's kind of a key thing for moving beyond into new territory. Is don't be trapped by the metaphors that you use, some system of thought.
Wow.
I use this metaphors too, you know. Yeah, we get good vibes, right? We really understand each other, and I'll say that, but it's just it's a shortcut way of saying something that otherwise would take us, you know, a half hour to work out in details, and it works. Everybody knows what we mean, you know, or maybe everybody doesn't. You and I would, you know, we'd know just what that means. So, sure, I'll use those metaphors. It's a simple way of communicating. As long as you're talking to people that share your metaphors. Go to a different culture, they don't share your metaphors, nothing. You know, it doesn't work. Yeah. Any other questions? Comments?
Yeah,
additions, deletions?
When can we have a rematch? This has been one of the greatest days imaginable. Tom, you have given us so much of yourself, and so gracefully, and so brilliantly, and so genuinely and authentically, that it just feels like we have been in another reality for about 4 hours.
Only 4 hours?
Yeah. Well, today.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun.
This has been wonderful,
yeah.
and I'm very excited to share this with our viewers, and to let people see what a brilliant amount of work you have done to facilitate our ability to make this paradigm shift. Finally, paradigm shift makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's coming.
Yeah, I think it's coming. I believe I see it bubbling up in science all over. There's various groups, various places who are saying, you know, it's really better physics to assume we have a virtual reality. You know, Brian Whitworth is one of those. He publishes papers, and these are all peer-reviewed papers in technical journals, and he's saying virtual reality is better physics. You know, so you have lots of that going on from different places. It's bubbling up. The one thing they don't have is the consciousness connection, to where they take that and consciousness, and suddenly you've got the whole enchilada. Everything then makes sense. Now, I say everything, but that's just everything I've run into. I'm open-minded. I'm still skeptical. I'm still looking for something that doesn't make sense, because when I find things that don't fit, then I know I have to expand and understand something else that I don't understand now. So I'm looking for things like that. But so far, everything seems to end up with a rational explanation, which is good.
We thank you for the time, Tom.
You're quite welcome.
Bless you. What a great day.
Thank you.
Bless you.